In today's video, I am going to show you how to turn the Puffy pumpkin applique into a granny square. If you haven't seen the tutorial for these Puffy pumpkin appliques, I will link that down below. Once you have one of these made, come back to this video and I will show you how to add on that granny square border to create a granny square using a 4-weight acrylic yarn for your Puffy pumpkin, and for the border, and a 5.5mm crochet hook. These granny squares measure 6 inches by 6 inches. So go ahead, make a Puffy pumpkin, and I will show you how to turn your Puffy pumpkin into a Puffy pumpkin granny square. We are going to pick our bordering color. So I just have sort of like a beige, ecru type background color. Pick up your Puffy pumpkin. The top has the stem and the leaf. If you go straight down, you can see where there's that little indent to create sort of a pumpkin shape. We're going to start in that very bottom indent stitch. So I'm just going to join my new color into that bottom, very bottom stitch. You can see it's just about opposite from where the stem is. We're going to go ahead and chain 3. And into that very same stitch, work 2 double crochets, and that will get us our granny shell, the first one. We're going to skip the next stitch, and into the next we're going to work 3 double crochets. We have our 2 granny shells on the very bottom of our pumpkin. We're going to work a corner next, and on this very other side where we come around the pumpkin, that will be where our other corner is. So each side will have 2 granny shells before you work a corner. We're going to skip the next, and into the next, that's where we work our corner. So work 3 double crochets into that very same stitch, chain 2, and into that very same stitch work 3 double crochets. Now we've got a corner. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and into the next work a granny shell, so 3 double crochets. We're going to skip 1, into the next work a granny shell, 3 double crochets. So now we have our 2 shells on this side of our pumpkin. We're going to skip the next, and we're going to work a corner into the next. So into that next stitch, 3 double crochet, kind of get your leaf out of the way, chain 2 for the corner, and back into that same stitch, 3 double crochet. Now we've got 2 corners done. We're now at the top of our pumpkin. We're just going to push those leaves and stems out of the way so we can see, because we're going to be working behind it. You want those stems to be in the front. We're going to work into the stitch just to the right of the stem and the leaf. So you should just skip one and work a granny stitch, so 3 double crochets into that stitch right next to the leaf, to the right of it. And that stitch sometimes is a little bit snug. Work here 3 double crochets. We're now going to skip the entire leaf and into that next stitch just to the left of your leaf, work a granny shell. So 3 double crochets into that stitch. I'm going to go ahead and skip the next 2 stitches, and into the next I'm going to work 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet for my corner. And right back in for the second half of that corner, my 3 double crochet. Now around that corner, you can see the leaf and the stem will just sit right on top of your granny border. I'm going to skip the next 2 and into the next work 3 double crochet. Skip 1 into the next 3 double crochet. I'm going to skip the next 2 and into the next I'm going to work a corner. So 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet for the corner. And now we're back to where we started. All you want to do is slip stitch into the top of your chain 3 to join that round, and you've got round 1 of your granny puffy pumpkin. One more round of granny shell. I like to just slip stitch over until I get to the first space between my granny shells, and then I'll go ahead, chain 3, and then 2 double crochets right back into that space, and I can start working that granny stitch pattern. Skip to the next space in between those shells and 3 double crochet. The next space is our corner, so I'm going to work a corner. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, all into that corner space. Skip to the next space and work a shell, 3 double crochet, and that's the pattern for the second round of granny shell stitch to create your granny square. If you feel like you want a larger granny square, you can keep going. and work as many rounds in the granny shell stitch as you want to get that desired length of border around your pumpkin. For this square here, I just worked the 2 rows of granny shell stitch, the hardest being that first one where we have to equally distribute our shells around the pumpkin to make it look even. So that being said, if you feel like for the way that you have done your puffy pumpkin, you may have to adjust slightly where you skip 1 stitch and where you skip 2 stitches. I like to kind of take the pumpkin and just look at it, knowing that this is going to be sort of this center bottom. I like to start there and put my first set of double crochets there for the first granny shell. But you can go ahead and just put stitch markers in the approximate corners. So wherever you think those would be. And that is where you need to work your corners. So 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, all into that same corner stitch. So place a stitch marker wherever you think those corners would be, and that way you know those are your corners. In between those corners, you need to work 2 sets of granny shells. So sometimes you're going to need to skip 1, sometimes you're going to need to skip 2. So I tried on this tutorial to kind of give you an idea of when you would need to skip 1, when you would need to skip 2, to kind of make it even out and equal all the way around. But again, everybody is different. Your tension could be different when you're making the puffy pumpkin or when you're putting on your granny shell border. So sometimes, as with everything else, it's just a little bit of trial and error. Sometimes you just have to play around with how many stitches you need to skip before you start adding the next set of double crochets for that shell. I'm going to continue working this around, and then I will be right back to finish up this video. I hope this video was helpful in showing you how to turn your puffy pumpkin into a granny square. And I love turning little appliques like this puffy pumpkin into granny squares. They can be used in blankets and bags and scarves and just such a wide variety of different projects. Thanks again so much for watching, everyone. Until next time, happy crocheting. Bye!